Alright, first let me get this out of the way. There are rumors going around this week that everyone's been talking about that this episode would get a TVY7 rating, but in truth, it's not. I checked the rating, it's still TVY. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's jump into today's review, or vlog, of today's episode of this week, Power Ponies. Hopefully most of you resisted singing the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme song. Certainly I did. And, of course, we got a guest star on here, Friar D. Brony, yet again. And hopefully this time the video will not be delayed till Sunday to get the footage from him. But with that said, let's jump into the episode. So, Spike picked up a comic book from Camelot from a comic store called I forget the name now, the Enchanted Comic Store, or whatever it is. He picks up a comic book known as Power Ponies, which sounds vaguely familiar to Power Rangers, don't you think? And of course, Spike has this feeling that he's, of course, obviously feels like he's been left out of a lot of things. Then, of course, Twilight and her friends are back at the castle, because we haven't seen it since Castlemania, where they're trying to fix up the place. Sort of much like how Rarity was trying to restore some of the old fabric in the place, and yet the house was just constantly rejecting her. As the story goes more on and on, Spike is in the exact same room where they get the idea to basically from now on just writing their diaries about the lessons they learned. Spike finds out that there's a missing page within the comic. However, a little word that basically is like the code for entering the comics suddenly takes Spike and the main six into the comic. The funny thing about the sucking of the comic book, of the six getting sucked into the, the comic book and all, is it feels a little like Jumanji, where young Alan gets sucked into the board game. Well, anyways, another San Diego Comic-Con panel video actually appeared in this. Again, fully animated with a lot of great stuff. And of course, we've got a lot of the characters that actually Spike has referenced to the main six as the characters in the comics that he's been reading. One of them included a Fluttershy lookalike that basically just turned into DHX version of the Hulk. How is that not awesome? And of course he's trying to hold her mad, inducing stress out. But of course the Maniac comes out with the big giant electrical orb that you probably see in everyday museums. As, the six try to get used to the powers. I would say that their powers sometimes is that they're trying to get used to the powers. This is the first time they're ever doing it. And yet, with Rainbow Dash, she winds up summoning a hurricane. And the next thing you know, her friends get wrapped up into this, along with Spike, who is the bumbling sidekick that almost feels like Robin from Batman. Like, even one of the lines feels like something out of the old 60s Batman show that used to air on the Hub. You know what? I want to bring that show back. That was a great show. Oh, at least in its campy style. Anyways, better proceed on to the rest of this. So anyways, the Maniac has grabbed the orb and is planning to use basically a giant hair-drying cannon to basically, make her main much more powerful than ever, if I remember the plot. I mean, I'm trying to still grab the concept of this episode. So, basically, what happens next is that they wind up getting to the headquarters of where the Maniac is, only to find out that they're basically a bunch of bad guys waiting for them. It's sort of interesting how they pull that off. I mean, first you got Pinkie Pie, who's sort of like the Flash, who's basically going around poking a person on the left, the right, the front, the back, and the next thing you know, splat some cupcakes onto them. Or a banana split, or whatever it was. It's DHX, they can do whatever they want. But unfortunately, the Maniac basically finds them, traps them in what she calls her, in what is DHX version of Gru's freeze ray from Despicable Me. Except it doesn't have that icy look to it. It's more of like the, what was it? The magic that Twilight used just to get her friends to stand still from Castlemania. And of course they drag them inside, and of course we find out, later on of course earlier on, much like the comic Spike was reading, he's a klutz. He's basically the bumbling sidekick that the Maniac refers to as just a person that just feels sorry for. And I could see a couple of those reasons, but I don't know. So, with that said, what happens next after the break is that we see Spike sneaking into the Maniac's hideout, which happens to be a hairspray factory, if you haven't figured it out. And what happens from that point on is that they find out her plans. And of course, there's another thing. When they're trapped inside a cage, they're trapped inside a cage, and there's a guard standing right next to the big giant right next to the giant can of, who knows. I'll call it the freeze spray. So basically, whenever they try to move like a hoof or something like that, there's basically a timer next to the guard, and basically you're supposed to spray the thing, I don't know, every 5 minutes or something like that. And of course, Spike obviously looks around, gets this great idea, and he knows what to do. And the one thing he does is just basically grab, the reveal curtains to that giant hair dryer, put it on the hook and chain, and basically with a giant crate, trap all of the henchmen, or at least I would say the doppelgangers, but I honestly can't remember the term. Basically, trap them in there. Then the next thing you know, suddenly the guard's just like, wait a minute, what? When he's supposed to spray the ponies, and then next thing you know, gets smacked by Spike. Then of course, the main six are unfrozen, they get out alive, at least thanks to Rarity's powers of having a giant filer on her, with her magical powers. Then the six get out, of course, and they do obviously their usual slapstick, and of course there's Fluttershy, who's trying to hold back, that's obviously not very angry. Next thing you know, Maniac sees Firefly on a cannon and just basically swats the thing. And then suddenly, this is where she turns into the Hulk. I'm serious. She turns into the Hulk all because of a sweet, innocent Firefly got on to her cannon. And then, of course, she obviously smashes the whole thing, but before she smashes the thing, she tries to fire the laser, straight at her, but then the next thing you know, it's deflected and then hits the Maniac. And of course, she's wrapped in her own hair and still doing that maniacal laugh. Which almost reminds me of the maniacal laugh from, which sort of feels like I don't know. I just don't care. I keep making references to a lot of things. So, what happens from that point on is just basically, obviously, Fluttershy turns into Hulk, smashes the living daylights out of the cannon. Then, of course, after they're done with that, they basically get sent back into the real world, and, of course, they learn the lesson that it doesn't take a person with superpowers to learn a great responsibility. And it's honestly a good lesson it's a decent lesson. I still need to grasp the concept of it, but Spike suddenly explains that he got a comic from a magic comic store that almost felt like it was supposed to tell really great stories, but then the next thing you know, at the end of the episode, the comic disappears. Trust me, if a comic store was to actually be here, there would be many people that might wind up getting sucked into comics. That would be completely insane. But how was the episode? I'll give it this much. At least it was a great episode. I mean, some of the superhero designs actually do fit the main six pretty well. Heck, even Spike's design actually is really great. So, let me explain what these characters are like. Like I said, Fluttershy turned into the Hulk. Rainbow Dash has the ability to control nature. Rarity has the ability to pop up with anything she feels like with the gems that basically right next to her hooves. Applejack has basically a lasso that somehow has magical powers, and of course Twilight has the ability to shoot. I mean, she's got something. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what it was. Oh yeah, right. She has the ability to, I don't know, throw snowballs. It's a weird thing. You might need to see the episode. I'm mixed about it, but I think it's okay. It's just one of those episodes you gotta see and worth checking out. So, before I throw you guys over the 5D Brony, here are a couple of announcements for you. Obviously, if you looked at my last video, if haven't, go check it out. I am asking for animation auditions for an official music video I'm doing for Winterfall Over the Acres by Forever Free Brony. One of my favorite songs this year. Seriously, go listen to it. It's really much of a tearjerker. And one last thing. If you guys are waking up on December the 25th, sometime during the Eastern, at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, there is going to be a MLP-themed Yule log that will run for 4 hours straight. Luckily, I have my DVR set to record the Yule log, and just to remind you, if you're ever going to watch that, either if you got a DVR or you just got Xfinity or whatever you got, that actually airs programs 3 hours later here in the Pacific time zone, this is your chance to take a look at the Yule log. Just sit there, wait for your family to open up your presents under the Christmas tree, or just whatever you celebrate. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays for all you guys next week. And here's to hoping next week's episode is good, as we take a look at bats. And I'm serious about that title. So, here you go. Here's Fire D Brony's opinion on the episode.
Hey guys, Fire D here for another MLP Season 4 vlog with the Ferb guy, and this time we are looking at Power Ponies, which obviously the title refers to the Power Rangers. Now, first thing I would like to say that I used to love the Power Rangers when I was a kid, and now I'm kind of just feeling average about it, because now yeah, as I'm getting older, I'm just starting to see more of the flaws with it. But that's okay. So what have we got in this Power Ponies episode? Sorry, I'm talking quite close to the microphone. So what have we got in this episode? Well, obviously, like I said, the title is referred to the Power Rangers, and quite surprisingly, it's not so much as like a Power Rangers as is more of a like a Justice League or a Marvel Avengers or something. But what can you do? So obviously this episode starts off with Spike reading a superhero comic. And obviously he's quite getting quite into it. And obviously it's quite late at night, and Twilight's telling him to get back to sleep and everything. And and I especially love how Spike's gotten into it and telling Twilight all these things in the comic, and yet Twilight doesn't really understand it as much. And obviously she says that obviously when she gets into a lot of cool books as well, like Daring Do in the previous episode. No, episode before the last episode, my bad. So yeah, we've obviously got Twilight, and so then the next morning, they're at that old pony castle during Castlemania, and obviously Spike wants to help out with the ponies, but there's nothing much to help him with, and obviously he tries to find a quiet spot to read the comic. And obviously what happens is, after a while, he finds a little note at the end of the comic saying, go back to the first page of the comic, and that what gets him into the comic book. And that was pretty cool. Ugh. So yeah, what else? Oh yeah, and also we got on. Sorry. They get teleported into the comic book world, and they end up in Hold on. Give it. It was Manhattan, I think it was. I can't. Yeah, Manhattan, I think it was. I think there was more to it, but no, well. And so obviously, in order to get out of the comic book, they need to defeat this villain. I can't remember her name. I only just saw the episode just immediately, and I forgot her name already. And she's kind of quite insane, I have to be honest. It's like if you mix up with Luna, Princess Luna, well, Nightmare Moon, with a hint of Discord and a lot of the Joker from Batman. And obviously she's quite over the top and quite, insane. And she's also got some snake hair, and you can literally just count how many. You can literally go for a drinking game of the puns she makes for her main, or just a main. And also, not that the third guy is probably mentioned already about a drinking game with the Wilhelm scream, and yes, that's happened. I think twice at the end of the episode. Well, a little bit at the end of the episode. I can't remember. But anyway, obviously in order to get out, obviously since the main six need to get out of the comic book, they need to defeat this villain. And like I said, I can't remember her name. And so what they need to do is get to a headquarters, HQ, which is basically a shampoo factory, which I have to say was pretty funny to say. Can you imagine that? And that's like a very unique location for a villain's hideout, a shampoo factory. I don't think even Batman would even get that idea if he was trying to catch the Riddler or the Joker or something. But yeah, and obviously since the villain makes this spree, which freezes the main six into a freeze, and that makes their powers useless. And so obviously Spike in the comic book Spike there was a character. In the comic book, there was supposed to be a character who wasn't really pointless, who's just a comic book relief, and that's what Spike ends up being when they get teleported in the comic. as well as the main six, become the Power Ponies. I should have mentioned that before, but I'm pretty sure the third guy's mentioned it already. He's probably doing this better than I can. So obviously, yeah, when the villain sprays them into freeze, and she doesn't spray Spike because obviously the villain thinks that Spike isn't really worth it. And so after a while, Spike sneaks into the HQ where the villains captured the main six into a cage. And so obviously Spike needs to get them out somehow. And what he does, I don't know, he goes for this strange tactic of like, he did something with a box. Jeez, my mind is so vague for now. Sorry, just a lot of things have been going on. I'm just trying to think what I did, what happened in the episode. Yeah, like, I think he like threw the box onto the villain. I can't remember, but he did something like that, and obviously gets the main six, the Power Ponies, just say for now, out of the cage, so they can fight off the henchmen and all that. And obviously the villain made like a device that will like go, and there was like a spray that goes around the world to make everyone's mains go wild like hers, which I think is actually one of the worst villain plans ever made. I don't think even Mr. Freeze could think of something so ridiculous. Because obviously we know Mr. Freeze's tactic, just freeze anything. Sorry. And so obviously, Spike, Spike and the main six fought off the henchmen, and the only way for them to defeat the villain is for Fluttershy to become all angry like, the Hulk, and destroy the machine and save everyone. And she can't really get angry because, obviously she's always shy and always nervous all the time. And the only thing that will get her angry is like if someone hurt a bug or something, and that's what happens here. The villain basically like knocks a fly. What am I talking about? Not a fly. Like firefly. There we go. A fly knocks a firefly out and hurts the bug, and that what gets Fluttershy into a fury of rage. And I was just laughing the whole way through. That was so cool. It was so cool how she did it, and she just wrecked the machine. And then the main six get out of the comic, and it is all good. And everything's all good. And apparently, when they got out of the comic book, Spike said that the magazine was actually an enchanted comic book, and I'm just saying, that explains everything. So yeah, that was the episode. I thought this episode was really good. The part I didn't really like about it is that the villain's motivation of being a villain was pretty bad. It wasn't very good. Just making everyone's mains crazy, that is not very good. It's not very good motivation. But the thing I do like about it is how they actually try and do a superhero thing in the show. In My Little Pony, they do try something new with superheroes. I don't think, well, no, they have done it before with the Mysterious Madrigal, but I'm not really counting that. But yeah, that's really good. So I don't really have much else to say other than that I apologize that if I'm not putting more effort into this. It's just because a lot of things have been going on with me right now. I'm just I'm just trying to download my Source Filmmaker because it crashed, as none of you will know because none of you subscribers or Ferb Guy will know me. But yeah, I do Source Filmmaker videos on my channel if you do want to see them. I think Ferb Guy might put a link into it. I don't know, but I'll see you guys later.